Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Andertons TV, where today my special guest is Mason from Vertex Effects. Vertex is a pedal brand that we started stocking at the beginning of the year. And so I thought we'd invite Mason over, talk a little bit about how he got into making pedals and his thoughts on the guitar, and give you a quick demo of a couple of the new pedals that have come out this year. So welcome to the UK.
Thank you so much.
Is this your first time, or are you?
No, I've been before, but never in a professional capacity. So it's good to be here with that in mind.
This is nothing like a professional capacity.
This is the most professional capacity I've been in the UK.
So tell us a little bit about how long you've been making pedals and how you got into this game.
Yeah, so I've been making pedals non-professionally since about 2005. Mm-hmm. And then professionally, I've been doing it since about 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in 2008, and it sort of depends. You know, the legal start date I think was somewhere in April, but certainly it was happening.
Okay, so it's 10 years then this year.
Yeah, about 10 years, and you know, I didn't always have a name for my company. I think it's only officially been Vertex since around 2010.
Okay.
But really, how I got my start is I was I wanted to do electrical engineering. And there wasn't a program for that anymore where I was going to university in Berkeley, California. And so because the scope at that point was, you know, with it being so close to Silicon Valley, anybody in engineering really wanted to go into computer science.
Yeah.
So this sort of stuff was laughable by most people's standards.
It's pretty archaic, isn't it?
Right, yeah. I think when I take stuff like this to the professors, they just say, why, you know? And so a lot of this I kind of had to learn on my own. I dropped out of the engineering program and I pivoted to sociology because it was where I had the most credits to get a diploma. And I just put out ads on Craigslist to get volume and experience. And I said, I'll fix your pedals for free, or I'll mod your pedals for free. And this was in sort of the early to mid 2000s when the wave of modified kind of faux boutique pedals started coming out with Analog Man. And certainly he'd been doing it a long time, but he had more traction at this point, Robert Keeley.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wanted those mods and maybe either didn't know where to buy them or couldn't afford to do them. And there was this guy on Craigslist and me who would offer to mod your pedals for free, and you just would pay for the parts. And it got me a lot of experience on learning, you know, not only, you know, what a lot of the popular mods were, but also on how to repair pedals and common things that went wrong. And ultimately that fed into reliability, you know, things to build into the pedals to make them functional really well.
So at what point did you have that sort of moment where you thought, you know what, I'm coming up with enough of my own flavor here to now do Vertex? Because I think it would be, it's so tough, isn't it, the pedal world, to sort of genuinely go, here's something utterly unique, as opposed to something which I fundamentally spun as my own flavor of something already, you know. But so at what point did you feel like, okay, I've got, you know, my own flavor, if you like, is different enough now that I can go and...
I kind of came to it sort of organically. It was when I was making one-offs for a lot of session musicians and studio players in LA that had large followings, and I would build something custom that they would ask for, and then there would be this huge, you know, influx of kind of their fans and people that appreciate their music that would say, well, I really want what you built for this player because, you know, I really appreciate what they like, and if they like it, then I'm going to like it. And that was the solidifying moment for me that we were on the right track, that we were regularly having people ask, you know, me and the two other guys who were working for me part-time to be recreating this. And so that was when we came out with our first product, which was actually a modified pedal. It was an Arion stereo chorus.
Oh wow!
That was, you know, heavily modified. Yeah, so you have.
I've got one, but not one of yours.
You have one of the EWS. Yeah. So in, you know, the EWS is fantastic, and if you still want an Arion chorus, I recommend that people go that direction. But we made one that was true stereo. It was modified to be like this really popular session musicians Arion chorus. And if you dig around on the internet a little bit, you'll see there was a really famous session guy that used them and loved the way that they sounded. And so we modified them essentially to sound like his, which was defective. And so we
Right.
recreated the defect, made it true stereo, true bypass, which they aren't in.
Isn't that the whole story of how fuzz? It wasn't it a defective channel strip on a mixer that's
Right,
kind of
right.
the whole story of how fuzz pedals even started.
The sound
to recreate that.
that made pedals become what they are.
What did you do? Because I've actually stopped. I had this thing. We're going well off track here.
Okay.
That's what I like about these kind of things. So when I was young and working in Andertons, when I was in like 15 or whatever, and I couldn't afford the Boss chorus pedal.
Sure.
The Arion probably was the go-to brand for if you couldn't afford Boss.
Absolutely.
And so I had fond memories of this. And then when I went to buy one, I found this modified ones, and I was kind of shocked by how expensive it was to buy a modified. Because I think back when I was a kid, these were like $30 or something.
Right. And they came in plastic that was like you could hang up on a hanger.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And then now you're paying like $250 for a modified one.
Yeah.
But this seems to be, it's dark, and I ended up finding a CE2 on. Sure. Did I find it on eBay or did you find it on eBay? Maybe Pete found it on eBay or whatever. But I bought a CE2. Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Anyway. And I kind of can't work out now what it was that I really fell in love with about this in the first place. But I wonder if it's just the modification makes it dark. It's very, very, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, so,
Who was your famous session player, that you modified?
It was Michael Landau.
Oh, slightly famous then.
Yeah. I mean, in the session scene, he's really big, and especially in LA, he had a really big following.
He's huge. He's the daddy of all that kind of LA club scene. Isn't
Absolutely, yeah. And so certainly, like having him using that product at that time was really valuable for us to be able to say, we're making this pedal. It's exactly like the one that Michael Landau had, so much so that he doesn't have to take his Arion, his original Arion chorus on the road with him, and he can use this, and it's reliable. But they were very difficult to make. It was probably an unwise first pedal decision, but that's part of being in business.
Most people seem to enter the market of certainly doing mods of modding a drive pedal, don't
they?
But you went chorus. Cool.
Yeah, sort of we went backwards.
Yeah. So that kind of got you, I guess, some traction and some orders and enough to sort of take the leap, was it? To go
So
full time?
So that was like a modified thing, and we kind of did a couple of modified products between that, but really the first standalone product that was Vertex that was completely our thing was the Boost, the Vertex Boost. And that was also a spin-off from, stuff that same session player, Michael Landau, and a bunch of other guys, Robin Ford was another one of them, that were really interested in a boost pedal that was what they deemed to be colorless.
Right.
It had no impact on the sound. And there's a lot of boosts that's sort of the moniker they stand behind, is that it's transparent, it doesn't add any color. But they really wanted something that they could use after drive pedals, that they could use to increase the output and not change anything about the preceding pedals.
So we've got this on the floor here, almost, because I was about to say, why would you want a colorless boost pedal to go into other pedals? Because it's inevitably going to change the sound. But of course, so if you have that at the end of your rig, it's just a straightforward, I want like a solo lead boost, but with the same tone.
Exactly. So right now, the way that we have it set up on the floor, it would just be adding saturation, and the boost in and of itself wouldn't be coloring the UltraPhonix pedal, but it would be adding very clean linear volume to it, and so however the UltraPhonix would react to that. In this case, happens to be a great combination.
Yeah.
But if I just wanted to take what I had, say, in the UltraPhonix and just make that louder, then I would just reverse the position of these two pedals.
And roughly-ish boost-wise, I mean, how much extra boost are you getting there? My eyesight can't see.
Yeah, so 16 decibels, is, and that's sort of a rough approximation. You have some tolerance variation in resistors and things like that, so it could be a little bit more, but that was kind of the sweet spot, that we decided between all of the different artists that helped us kind of determine what we want to do. But the thing that this does, and we're not really showing it here, is it has this interesting function that no other boost has, where it has an expression jack to it. And when you plug in an expression pedal or a volume pedal into that via TRS or an insert cable, you can actually control the boosted output separately from when it's on and when it's off. So when it's off, it's just a regular volume pedal, essentially your expression pedal works as. And then when it's on, then it reflects whatever the maximum output is that the boost is set to. And for the session guys, that was really critical because they didn't want to adjust their settings of their other pedals. But they also had to use a volume pedal, and this removes the impedance effect that volume pedals have, where for all of those session guys, it's sort of a necessary evil. They just have to deal with the tone suck and the loading. So this solved kind of two problems. So it's very functional. It's not as sexy as, the overdrive or distortion pedal where it feels like you're Godzilla stepping on cities.
Let's see. So if we just go a tone with no pedals, and then see what happens when
so this is actually the way I really like to demonstrate it is I turn it completely off, and if we listen to the bypass sound, and I bring it in, and I'm just going to turn it on and off a couple of times while I'm playing. You literally will hear no difference. So there's no color happening here. There's no color at all. And then if we add, let's go halfway, approximately 8 dB.
Yeah.
And so we're not hearing any clipping that's from the boost. No. If it is clipping, it's hitting the front of the amp.
I was just saying, we've got the amp set with a reasonable amount of headroom actually, so I think but obviously if you had an amp that had a little less headroom or you cranked it a little bit more, you begin to hear the amp driving a bit more, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then I guess if you showed that same kind of thing, if you kick the UltraPhonix in to give you a bit of that gain and show how it would then used to.
So here's UltraPhonix.
So there's all the extra clipping that you get by using it as a standard boost into a pedal.
Right, it just adds a little bit more. And for single notes too, it can be nice if you kind of have like a dirty rhythm tone set up. And then you need to go for a solo, you want to maintain that dirty rhythm, but maybe just make it a little dirtier for the.
That's great.
So it can be great for that
very
purpose.
Cool. Yeah. So that's your nearly 10 years old now, that pedal.
Well, yeah, that one. I think it officially came out in 2013 or 14, something like that. So it took a while for it to get into this format. It was sort of in hand-wired, prototypey boxes on a lot of pedal boards leading up to that. But I think it officially launched in that time.
It's a cool sound. And then where did you? Because there's 6-7 pedals in the range now.
Yeah.
So what was the next? Or do you want to jump straight to the two the sort of the newest ones?
Whatever you think is going to be most appropriate for your setup.
I know the steel string and the UltraPhonix are the two we're going to focus on.
Yeah.
But so I've got a T drive on the floor.
Right.
Although I've got to admit the steel string is doing insane fattening things to the tone here. But so here's just. This is a little experiment we've done. We're using a Hot Rod Deluxe, but we're running it into a 212 cabinet. We think we may take a hacksaw to a Hot Rod Deluxe at some point or other and make a head out of it so that we can run it into some bigger cabs. Anyway, that's my Hot Rod Deluxe kind of basic tone. The T drive is a fairly conventional drive with just a gain and a volume control on it. But that's with the gain about.
It's cleaning up pretty great there.
Yeah, that was a low drive. I mean, obviously, if I turn the gain round to, we're at about 2 o'clock now. It's much. Loads of gain, but I guess it'll still. It's tough, the drive market, I think, isn't it? Because I think the fairest thing to say about the T drive is it's another good sounding drive pedal, but you've got to kind of, you've got lots of alternatives if you just want a good sounding drive pedal. I guess, if somebody's going to plug this in with their amp and their guitar combination and go, you know what, that's the best one for me. But it probably hasn't got the unique angle maybe, or the slightly rarer angle of the other two. Is there anything that you've tried to do about the clipping on the T drive to try and give it an angle or a different?
So the angle that it's coming from is sort of it's sort of a similar origin of the Dumble thing. It's actually derivative of the Trainwreck, which was sort of at a time was sort of in parallel with Dumble as sort of being the two kind of most, amps with most mysticism around them.
Yeah.
And the T drive is modeled more in kind of the Liverpool and what's the other one called? There's the Liverpool, there's the Express, and there's the Rocket. And they all kind of had their variations, but were all sort of high gain versions of their British counterparts, either the Vox or the Marshall style, and used by Brad Paisley and guys like that. But really what the differentiator from them was, rather than just being another kind of higher gain drive, is the cleanup element and the way that it interacted. And even when you turned it down, you didn't lose a ton of volume between clean and dirty, and that was sort of the signature thing around those amps. And so we try to do our best to instill that in there, but there's not... Unfortunately, Ken Fisher's amps didn't continue with the same trajectory after he died that Dumble did, so a lot of people don't know about Trainwrecks, where we have this beautiful story around the Dumble lineage of UltraPhonix.
Yeah, I must admit, I was trying to think to myself, I'm pretty sure I've never heard of Trainwreck, and then you did the Brad Paisley thing, and I was going, actually that does trigger something.
Yeah, some of the Dr. Z's are based off of them loosely.
Right, okay. But let's try that. So with a little bit more kind of again, and I mean, it's got a certain something to it that you go, okay, well that's, you don't hear that on every drive pedal, if that's your...
Because normally that would be probably about a 10 dB drop or so to go from that clean to that dirty.
Sorry, I shouldn't play while you're talking.
Or I shouldn't be talking while you're playing.
Either way. I quite like the sort of throaty little bit. It's not, there's not too much high end in there to sort of give it that nasty sort of fizz. It's quite a throaty gain pedal. But the world of gain pedals is, I came up with my acronym of JAFOD in a recent pedal, which is just another, insert the word, overdrive.
Right.
And it's tough now because it's unfair. It's unfair to put that criticism against anything. But the reality is, shopping for an overdrive pedal nowadays is just a mission. It's like go and try 50 really great sounding overdrive and just find the one that connects with you.
It's like drinking water from a fire hose.
But speaking of pedals that are a bit funky and different, where did this Dumble obsession come from yourself, and how have you managed to acquire such a rich collection of these amplifiers?
Well, I should preface this by saying that I am not the owner of any of those amplifiers.
Right.
So I will preface that. However, I've been really fortunate to have some friends and connections made by those friends to get enough of these Dumbles in our presence to be able to really accurately be able to capture the things that they do. And so kind of our two flagship pedals, I'm confident in saying that because even though the UltraPhonix is maybe like 6 weeks old, we've almost already sold 2,000 of these. Whoa. And that's a really big number by boutique standards.
It's huge
for moving that many products.
Yeah, absolutely. Lunch is on you then.
So in any case, with these two, with the steel string, that was the first of the two Dumble pedals, and arguably the less known, and it still confuses people what the difference between the two are. The steel string is the steel string Singer emulating pedal, and for people who don't know about what that is that was Dumble's clean single channel amplifier that was made popular by Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then more recently John Mayer. Because it's almost like a twin reverb that can break up, but sounds like it's made to break up. Kind of has this fat, crystally, clean sound, but there's this drive underneath it. This is really sweet. And with the Strat, the best way I can describe is it makes 10s sound like 14s. It just kind of gives this bigness and this warmth that's just not there.
hundreds of you watching this will have Fender Hot Rod Deluxes, you know. There is a Hot Rod Deluxe sound. Sounds pretty good.
Totally acceptable, clean.
Yeah. I never want to turn this off.
Right.
You know, it's like, that's the sound. In fact, if anything, I've probably put a little bit more gain on it for when we were doing those jams at the beginning. But it's like, without, with. That's on a bridge pickup as well. Let's put it on something a bit more. Now I just need to play like Stevie or John Mayer. But I mean, knobs and buttons wise here, I've pushed the volume up to maybe 2 o'clock. The gain's at about 11 o'clock. And the filter control, which you were mentioning, is more of a mid-range thing.
It's kind of an active mid-range control. And so what we did here to kind of make it go with pretty much any type of amp, because we wanted to make sure that whether you had an EL34 or EL84 or 6L6 or 6V6, you could dial it to get within the range of what we considered a standard deviation of the original. So it's pretty much boosting between about 600 and about 1.2K. And that was sort of the sweet spot that we found in terms of frequencies. And so with, you know, stuff that's more scooped, you probably are going to be turning the filter almost all the way to max. And then if it's something that's a little more mid-range present, you'd probably back it off.
So if we were going to use this as some kind of always-on kind of pedal, would you have that like the last thing?
I would treat it like an amp.
Like an amp. So you want all your pedals. So actually, I've kind of set this up totally the wrong way around. But I mean, I think... We're really not loud in here either, and it just fattens it.
I'm gonna turn up your gain just a little bit here.
Yeah, do it.
Let's just see kind of.
So gain's at 2 o'clock now, isn't it? So
yeah.
There's a little bit of clipping going on there. More when I'm playing the chords than when I'm hitting the... Still pretty clean for individual notes.
Right.
Does it, I mean, is it the kind of thing which can sound good?
Yeah,
sort of?
So you can get some definitely overdrive tones at that level.
And then, I mean, I don't really know if cranked is the
crazy.
right kind of
Go
thing,
crazy.
but...
It makes the Strat sound like the most kind of beefy and muscular kind of sound that you could do, and it's really that continuum style, like John Mayer thing. This nails that tone really, really well, and it's crazy when you're in front of the actual amp. And we had a steel string singer. I think there was only a dozen made. Apparently 2 are obliterated, were destroyed at some point. So only 10 in existence. We had the first one ever made, and unintelligibly, from the original owner, Henry Kaiser, could not tell the difference between this into a Hot Rod DeVille, a 212, and his original amp. And then if we used the same speaker cab, it was like even closer, taking that variable out. So I feel really, really good about this, and certainly the market has proven us right. I mean, it's one of our best-selling pedals ever made.
I kind of like if you've not seen it, Mason does this sort of mini-series on YouTube called Game of Tones.
Yeah.
What is it, like 2 or 3 episodes so far?
We just put out our 4th with Jeff Beck. Yeah, just put out our 4th.
With Jeff Beck?
Well, with Jeff Beck.
We're using him as the... Right.
Yeah.
So the idea is if you've not seen it, is Mason will get like an isolated guitar part from someone like, who have you had? Mark Knopfler, you just said Jeff Beck. What was the first one? Was it Larry Carlton?
Larry Carlton, and Gary Moore was the other one.
Okay. And then he gets a really good session guitar player to kind of play the riff at the same part through one of his pedals, one of the Vertex pedals. And then he gets like a panel of people to go, right, that one's Gary Moore and that one was the session dude or whoever it was. And basically Pete and I did the Mark Knopfler one at Summer NAMM, and I guessed every single one wrong. Every single one.
I think you got one right.
Did I get one right?
I got one right.
And I think Pete beat all the other panelists, didn't he? Pete got the most right.
He was the champion.
But it's, honestly, I was utterly relying on 50-50 guesses rather than like, oh, that's the... Or even more, what I was probably relying on more was trying to guess whose playing style was the artist rather than the guy trying to copy the artist.
Right.
But the tone, you know, once you hear the isolated guitar track, you're just going...
Yeah, there's not a lot to hide behind at that point, you know.
Anyway, that is a fat sounding pedal. I kind of feel because you've got the John Mayer guitar. You should here. You plug in. Yeah, you plug in and here.
Excuse me.
And then you play your best John Mayer riff and see what happens. So this is no pedal.
Right. Okay.
Here's the pedal. No pedal. Pedal. That's a great, I mean, I think if you own a valve amplifier that you just think, you know what, it just sounds better when it's given a little bit extra, but maybe you can't turn the volume up all the time, or you just need something a bit more controllable. That is a monster pedal to put in front of it. Anywho, have your guitar back.
Sure.
Let's move on. Now, we've both got UltraPhonix pedals. So again, another Dumble derivative.
Right.
But tell us about the UltraPhonix.
So this is kind of more the Dumble sound that people know and love. You know, this is the overdrive special, the most classic, you know, the most made of all the Dumble amplifiers. So this is kind of the Larry Carlton, the Robin Ford type thing. This is what we're going after here. And in this case, again, we relied on a lot of the same people that provided amps to us in the past to get us as many of the overdrive specials as possible. We were lucky to have another friend, Owen Barry, who got a celebrity-owned Dumble that we were able to do some comparison videos with. And, you know, even though we were only able to do comparison videos with two, because a lot of the Dumble owners just want to be careful to maintain their relationship with Dumble, understandably, and not do anything alienating, that we were still able to use the amps to kind of voice and make sure that we could approximate those sounds. But we have video evidence of two of them showing that we can almost dial these unintelligibly against an overdrive special through a clean platform. So I think one amp was a Pro Reverb, and the other one was a Hot Rod DeVille, a Michael Landau edition.
I actually think, you know, the reality is, if you're the kind of guitar player that's got the money to go and buy a Dumble amplifier,
do it.
Then, you know,
God bless you.
You could have a $200 indistinguishable pedal, and it wouldn't make any, you know, those guys are still going to go and drop $50,000 or $80,000 on the real deal, because it's a status symbol. It's like, look what I've got. But the 99.9% of guitar players that are never going to have that kind of dough to spend on an amplifier, but love the sound of them.
Right.
So I don't see any problem at all in going, you know what, if you've got, what's the most expensive? Didn't Robin Ford suggest that you know, he'd been offered like $500,000 or something mental for his Dumble? Yeah,
well, I think he actually sold one of them. I don't think the main one he's kept. He sold the black one, and I don't know what he got for it. But it seems like the going rate is right around $100,000. You know, between $80,000 and $100,000 for an overdrive special these days. So you'll save yourself a little bit of money. It's very close. Of course, nobody's ever going to be able to replace what an amplifier does. So I'll be the first one to admit that.
Yeah.
However, if you do want that sound and you don't want to go after a Dumble emulating amp, you know, or purchase a Dumble emulating amp, this is a really great way to go. And you know, you're not invested in having that be your rig. You know, you can use a Hot Rod Deluxe or Hot Rod DeVille or a reissue Fender or whatever, and this is going to get you 90% close to the real
Yeah.
thing, and we've been able to prove that, and that's
Yeah.
and people connect with that, and I think that's why it's been so successful.
We had Robin Ford do a clinic for us in Guildford about 5 years ago, and he bought his Dumble. And I'm like, isn't this the sacred? And he's like, yeah. And the flight case has just got all the different airport.
Sure.
And I'm
yeah.
like, and you just give this to an airline, and he's
Yeah.
like, well, how else am I supposed to get it
Right,
from
yeah.
A to B?
Yep.
And I'm just like, anyway. And on the night we had something. I think it probably was a Hot Rod DeVille or something like that, as like just a backup,
Sure.
on the stage. And again, you're sort of sound checking, you're using both amplifiers. And you're going, I don't know what it is that Robin Ford can coax out of that Dumble that he can't coax out of the Fender, but I couldn't coax it. I mean, Robin Ford definitely could, but I couldn't coax it out of, so it's clearly, it's the percentages are into that, I think when we were at the NAMM show where John Mayer unveiled
The J-Mod.
And he spoke to a small audience that Pete and I were lucky enough to be in, saying something along the lines of, it was kind of like, look, you kind of do need to be at my level to appreciate this. And he said it in a very gracious way. It didn't come across as sort of arrogant, but there was definitely a look.
Right.
If you're just, unless you're in like the top 5% of players, you're probably just not going to have the technique and the playing style to really appreciate.
It's really nuanced, it's like,
But it's great, something like this, I can plug this in and instantly go, oh yeah, I'm getting, like you said, I'm getting that 90%, I'm getting everything I kind of probably need to get.
Right, yeah, the accessibility factor is there 100%, and and that's and people ask me what pedal am I most proud of, and I tell them it's the UltraPhonix, because this was literally like a 4.5-year ordeal to get the volume of amps to really say we can approximate across multiple generations, because that's always the criticism of Dumble pedals, is like, well, which Dumble? Because they're all slightly modified to fit the player, and I feel like whether it was a higher gain or lower gain, or whether it was a brighter or a darker one, we could really fit this in with any backline amp.
So let's do. I know we've both got these plugged in. So you've got your volume set quite differently to mine. So you've got the volume really low.
I've got the volume pretty low, and there is a lot of output on this. And some people have actually emailed us and said, wow, like, the volume's so sensitive. And part of the reason why we do that is some people that choose to use the FET input on a Dumble, or they want to just use the boosted side of it, you can get that kind of FET boosted sound by bringing the gain down and then having that extra volume on tap. If we didn't leave that volume on tap and you brought the gain down, you wouldn't have anywhere to go if there wasn't enough output. So
let's have a little listen.
Be forewarned, So here we got the volume down, the gain's about halfway, the filter is about halfway, and again on this filter is also a mid-range EQ. This one's more between about 800 and about 1.6K. So here it is.
So fat. Turn it off and just do the comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of that bass end is actually in the amp already, isn't it? So, So it's just again, it's not overloading it; it's just fattening it up again, a bit like the steel string in a sense, but with a bit more gain. Yeah.
Right, and I would say comparatively EQ wise between the steel string and the UltraPhonix, there's a little bit more bass that's cut out of the UltraPhonix because the mid-range emphasis is in a higher register than that. But then also gain wise, if we were to plug this into a humbucker style guitar and add a little bit more gain, we would hear kind of that more singing, kind of Robin Ford, Larry Carlton type sound.
So speaking of which,
so I'm gonna dial you here. Let's kind of do like that darker kind of saturated Dumble-y thing.
is great, man. I mean, it's super fat as well. I really want to get into all the different controls that you've got here. So this is kind of with the filter and the gain turned up a bit. When you did the Gary Moore one, I don't know if I saw that. What pedal did you use?
That was dynamic distortion.
Right, okay, so we're not... But I mean, that's a lot of mid-range boost and a lot of gain, you know, not... Oh, that would cut through, wouldn't it?
Yep.
I love that. There's that sweet spot in the mid-range that you often hear people talk about the clon kind of just giving you that sort of like, that's the spike, isn't it? Where, particularly on a Les Paul, it forces, or it really encourages the guitar to go into that natural feedback, doesn't it? Oh, that's a classic sound.
Yeah, it's almost like that kind of percussive, almost like the Eagles Hotel California solo sound is a little bit like that.
I'm just going to stack my pedals around in a different order.
Okay, yeah, do it.
So, here is a little stackaroo job here. Yep. So here's nothing. Here is a relatively low gain steel string. Just going to brighten that up a little bit.
I'd say go max on the filter if you haven't. Yeah, because with the humbuckers there's...
You know what though? It massively fattens up the Strat, and it doesn't quite fatten up the Les Paul in the same. Maybe it's just the Les Paul doesn't need fattening.
Yeah, so one thing we should mention on steel string is there's an 18-volt option in terms of power. So I usually recommend if people have kind of fatter, more mid-range oriented pickups, you know, i.e. Les Paul, using 18 volts because the headroom is such where we get a little bit more extra.
We can do that.
Availability.
We can do that. We have,
we have
18 volts on the multi-power supply. Okay.
And so you get a little bit more of that, you know, a little bit more of that extra room before you start getting the clipping.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, for the Strat, it's like I'm always putting it into like a must-have category. Yeah. And for the Les Paul, it's kind of like a nice-to-have sort of category, you know.
And I guess too, like our ears are attuned to the way that that amp was used, right? And I'm thinking of everybody who used it: Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Mayer, Eric Johnson, kind of like all Strat players. And even though that wasn't the intention behind that amp, the amp was actually supposed to be for slide. Right. It somehow got hijacked by these Strat players.
It's still so.
Try it in the bridge pickup and see what you think there.
I just think it is. It's like it's an always-on pedal because it just everything about it it reacts how you want an amp to react when you turn the volume down, when you pick hard or pick soft. It just feels like a nice, just improves the basic tone.
And then stacked, you get the tone of the gods.
We've gone a bit, let's just... Oh, that's a bigger difference.
Yeah.
So look, so what I'm doing, you probably can't see what I'm doing here. So here's nothing, you know. Here's just the steel string. Here's the stacked UltraPhonix into the steel string. But now I'm going to take the steel string away. Way bigger difference once it's stacked than
Absolutely.
on its own on the steel string. They're good pedals, man. They are solid sounding and different enough. They can officially not be Jaffods. Is that okay?
Yeah. We get a
I
little,
like it.
Do we get a little stamp at that point?
Not a Jaffod. So look, I mean, they're great pedals, man. They're really, really cool. So
I'm glad you dig it. Man, they complement each other well.
They do.
It's like the steel string is kind of taking care of that lower register of the mid-range. Right, and guitar, mid-range instrument, that's the most important frequency.
Yeah.
And then the UltraPhonix is kind of exaggerating that upper part. And so when you got them together, you've sort of created this perfect balance in the mid-range.
Yeah.
Certainly we're hearing that exemplified through a pretty scooped amp.
Well, I predict that the Tube Screamer has been rinsed to death. The Klon is on its way to being rinsed to death. I suspect in 3 years' time we shall be basically saying the Dumble clone pedal has also been rinsed to death. But I hope you were there pretty much first, and you've done a fine. Well, I say you've done a fine job. You know, I've never really had that much time to play with a Dumble to know, but it sounds great. I think it sounds great, and that's all that's really important. So,
yeah,
cool.
Awesome.
Well, look, thanks for sitting through one of the longer episodes of on Andertons TV. But yes, I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of the pedals. I'll put links in the description below to where you can find out more about Vertex pedals on our site. Thanks to Mason for coming over.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy your time in the UK and have a safe trip home and everything. Yeah. You should get down to your local Vertex stockist, check one of these out.
Or just come right here and get it.
Or come right here. I'm too modest to say. But yeah, they're really good. Really, really good. So happy days. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.